So I've finally found the correct security camera system for my house. I've been looking for a long time and I've tried lots of different brands. I started with Blink and the batteries just didn't last and there weren't a whole lot of options. They were just really inconvenient and not the right fit for us. So I went ahead and went to Wise. You know, what could be cheaper? So we had that option and we had a lot of issues there with quality. The cameras, only lasted so long and then we got really blurry pictures. And there was a way to take them apart and fix that, but as a huge amount of work for really cheap cameras that didn't really live up to our needs and our expectations there regarding integrations. They really blocked a lot of stuff. It wasn't open to allow for Home Assistant to work properly. I did have them integrated there, but it just wasn't the right fit for us. I did try Unify. It was a pretty good camera and didn't have any complaints about the quality. I wasn't a huge fan of the app and the price was just too much. It didn't make sense to us when I could get Reolink that had everything, checks all the boxes, has all the integrations, the quality cameras, and tons of options and an affordable price without a subscription. Some of these other companies, they want to nickel and dime you. Wise, that was definitely one of our issues there. We always had to add a subscription to really unlock all the features. Not the case with Reolink. Definitely great out of the box. We run our own NVR, have everything local, and then we do have access outside of our home network at no cost to us. A great setup and great products. So let's get into it. I do need to let you know Reolink provided the products free of charge to me, but they're not reviewing my content ahead of time and they're not telling me what I have to say. So everything you see is my fair and honest opinion. Welcome back to Josh's Smart Home. If you're new here, I've been building out my smart home for almost a decade now, and I want to share with you what I've learned along the way and bring you along with my journey so you can see what it's like to integrate new products into a smart home. I'm going to cover the full Reolink camera system I have installed in my house, so I'll let you know how to plan for it, make sure that you purchase the right products to start with, let you know what the wiring's like, tell you about the NVR, the camera installs, the integration into Home Assistant, and some of the automations you want to consider, along with my final thoughts, so stay tuned. In the planning phase, I'd recommend that you go ahead and draw out a draft of your house like I have here, and this will allow you to identify the areas of your house that you'd like to cover. In our case, we want to cover the whole thing, so we're going for a 360-degree coverage here, and you would need to figure out, what type of wiring you have at a particular place. If you want to go power over Ethernet, if you have that wiring, or you can install that to the locations you're looking for, or if you have outlets where you want them, if you are going with a Wi-Fi camera that plugs in, or if you need to do a battery powered camera. So that's the first thing you want to do. And in our case, you can see we have a complex layout of our house. We have the garage here. The house is sort of like a U shape with this extra piece out the bottom. We have the deck, and then we have a deck with a pool in it, and then we have hundreds of feet behind this towards the backyard. So that'd be the direction beyond the deck and pool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I thought about our house and designed our house so that, maybe you can find something similar that works for you. The first thing I did was identified we wanted a 360-degree coverage, and identified that the easiest way to do that for us would be power over Ethernet, and that's mostly to the corner locations that we wanted. So anything that sticks out, we were making sure that we had power over Ethernet to those locations. Once we had power over Ethernet to those locations, we decided which cameras. And for the power over Ethernet, a fixed camera, I really prefer the CX810 and the RLC1212A. The CX810 is a great ColorX camera, and the RLC1212A is a great camera I find for locations where I don't want the spotlight to ever turn on. It does give a black and white picture, but it's less intrusive, I'll say, in certain locations for me. And your mileage may vary, but this is my opinion, so that's what you're getting. So how do we cover these areas? So what I designed was an idea that each of the cameras would point, each location would have a couple of different cameras so that they would overlap as the camera streams went out. So you had, on the corners, you had cameras that overlapped. And this is probably actually much wider than this. And you went through that same methodology. So there was never a blind spot in our house. And we actually have the front door right in this area. And we have the doorbell cam. And actually, it's probably more like that as far as the coverage. So I went around the house and did that. and that covered, clearly the 360 degrees around the house, as well as the doorbell. So that's the video doorbell Wi-Fi that we have there. Works great from Reolink, and highly recommend that one as well. Integrates great with Home Assistant, and I have a lot of things happen when you press the doorbell button there as well. So really great product, and one I'd recommend, is one of the top items in our house. Once I've determined, how are we getting the 360, and obviously we did the same kind of idea at these other locations, making sure we had coverage that extended and we never had any blind spots, that type of idea. So there were a couple of other areas that I wanted to cover. One was inside. So we have an office that's inside our house. In the office, I have an E1 Outdoor CX. So that one does rotate and tracks, if anybody's in the office, and I can turn that off when I'm in there working, that type of thing, for privacy purposes. We also have a trampoline on the other side of the deck and pool. So if you go past the deck and pool, there's a trampoline. And for that area, the kids play out there sometimes. I wanted something that was a little bit closer and could track them, that type of thing. So we have the TrackMix WiFi, and that's a dual lens camera. So we have the wider lens, and then it actually zooms in and tracks with the closer lens. So that's a really great product, and that's deployed out past the deck and pool. And then the furthest product out from our house is the Argus 4 Pro, and that's out in the field that's even beyond the trampoline there. And that has the solar panel too, and it tracks our deer or other wildlife that's typically back in that area in our field, and gives me some enjoyment because I really like to see the deer. So that's the main items of our deployment. We have tons of the CX810 and RLC1212A because we were able to run those power over Ethernet to all of our locations. And actually, there's a few more that I didn't even mark on here that have power over Ethernet to those locations, so that we get really full coverage around our house, in the garage, and everywhere that we could have any type of breach or issue. One of the reasons that we wanted to install the cameras in the first place is that we had a lot of issues with our neighbor's dog. So our neighbor's dog would come over and it attacked our dog a few times, and we were really concerned about that. So we wanted to have the cameras all around the house, and these cameras do have the vehicle, pet, and person detection. So we get alerts immediately through Home Assistant when we have a pet that's detected somewhere that, we wouldn't expect it. It does trigger with the cat that randomly walks through our property, as well as the deer. So I get the positive of the deer, and it does let us know when the neighbor's dog's out, so we can keep our dog safe and make sure that we don't let him out when the neighbor's dog's around, if it got loose. Now let me tell you about the setup of the system. I'll show you just a little bit about the wiring. I didn't actually do the wiring. I don't like the ladders or being in the attic. I've fallen through before. So I do have a contractor friend who runs that stuff for me when I need something like that done. So he did run it. It is through our attic space and then out to our office. We have stuff in the office closet, like a server area in the office closet, and then it runs out to the soffits, throughout the house, out to the corners where I requested them. I have them all labeled utilizing the like a label maker. I put it on each end so we know immediately which line is which, and have unique names that I wrote down on a piece of paper as well, with a little drawing of the house, so I know exactly where they go. And then we can put those right into the NVR and never have a question about which Ethernet cable's which, because that's certainly a problem when you end up with dozens of those in the office. And here are the camera installs. I'll just show you a brief install, and if you want more details on these, I do have dedicated videos to the different camera installs on my channel. And now for Home Assistant. For the Home Assistant integration, it integrates directly. It's native to Home Assistant. So you just go in and follow the prompts for the integration. Once you have it integrated there, you can set up your automations. Some of the automations I like to run include having things react to the cameras when they detect a certain thing. So one of the things, I'm not a huge fan of any really native apps of camera companies. So I like to utilize Home Assistant to send the notifications for the feeds. So if there's an AI detection, so let's say there's a person in our backyard, it pulls the screenshot and then sends that out to our cell phone and lets us know that there's a person there, and the quick image, and then we can click on that and go into the camera feed. So I like to utilize that. I did mention that when our doorbell's pressed, we have several things that happen. For example, we have announced on some of the Googles. We have the doorbell stream play on our Googles that have the screens, so we can see the live feed of the doorbell. And then in the basement area, we have a bar area that's not really close to the front door, and you really can't hear the chime. And I don't always hear, the Googles or whatever. So I actually blinked the lights in that area a couple times, and whether they're off or on, either way they blink. So if they're off, they blink on, twice. If they're on, they blink off, and that's through a toggling system rather than on off. So they always return back to their state prior to the automation. You could also integrate things like your lights. So if there's, a person around the front porch, you could turn your porch lights on, or some floodlights if they're in the backyard. Whatever you might want to do, you could utilize, because everything integrates awesome with Home Assistant. And here we're at the brains of the Reolink camera system for us, the NVR, where we have the hard drives installed. We have 2 hard drives in there that continuously record all of the, all the cameras. And we also have other detections sent out to our cell phones I had mentioned. And with this, you have a couple of different options. You could do the NVR like we did. You could do the SD card, or you could have a third-party option. You could utilize something like the Synology here that we have, and have that be your NVR for your cameras. But I like the Reolink integration because it provides the power over Ethernet as well for the cameras, so I don't have to have a power over Ethernet injector or anything like that. I just plug them right into the back and we're good to go. And then it does have this head, functionality as well. And here you can see this is where we can monitor the cameras, and we can change the cameras, add new cameras, delete cameras. I have a couple that are paused right now. The one because it's a battery and don't want to kill the battery unnecessarily, and the other one because I'm in the room and you don't need to see how messy my office is today. So I blocked that one off for now, and there's a couple that I need to add in here once I install those and finalize our camera system. So on here you can see it displays 25, but you have different options, and I can go in and change the display modes, and you can see it can be 1 or 4 or 8. So if I just do 8, for example, you have the doorbell in the large view and then some of the other cameras around it. You can bring up the event history here. And here you can filter based on person, vehicle, motion, animal, visitor, which is actually their way to say a doorbell press, and package. And there are a slew of settings in here as well. So we can go in and we can change the streams and, the resolutions, frame rates, etc. of these, so that we can change the bit rates and get a decent picture and maybe not have as heavy of a load coming through our network for these. We can change the camera name, the display information, which is like the logo for Reolink, as well as the name of the camera and the date and time. The detection information, you can change information here, and there's also detection area, the alarm delay. So if you wanted to say it has to be in the area for 2 seconds so that maybe a bug doesn't, trigger it, you can change that here. And the sensitivities for the smart detections are here, distinct from the motion detection. You can change the audio and play tests, as well as change the light information regarding the spotlights and infrared. You can also update the firmware here. This is something that's actually exposed into Home Assistant, so I actually update the firmware from Home Assistant so I don't have to get the TV out or anything and change it from here. And then there's some system settings here, so you can change resolutions and lock times and that kind of thing for your account. And then there's some maintenance type things, so you can auto reboot or auto update, those kinds of things. So lots of good updates and setting changes you can make from the NVR itself, and you can make most of these honestly from the app as well. So I don't typically utilize the monitor for the NVR too often. I typically will just go into the app and make adjustments there, or certain things I'll just go into Home Assistant, like the firmware updates, and update it just from Home Assistant and force it that way, rather than having to go into the NVR. So this leads me to my final thoughts. The Reolink camera system is absolutely amazing. It doesn't have the subscriptions that the other companies have. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg like some of the companies, and it has the quality cameras unlike some of the other companies. With Reolink, you really get the full package. You have the great night vision on a lot of the cameras that have the Color X night vision. You also have great quality even on like the RLC1212A with the black and white at night. You can see crisp, clear images of, who's there or what's there and be aware of what's going on. The NVR is a great local storage device. If you don't want to use that, you can use an SD card right in your cameras. So you have a lot of options here, and the options once you integrate it with Home Assistant expand tremendously. Everything that's revealed over there, the AI detections, the camera feeds, a variety of camera feeds actually, just so much you can do there. Your imagination is probably your limit on this. So if you enjoyed this video and you haven't seen the tour of my home yet, make sure you check out this one because I think you're gonna love it.